It's game week. Really excited about this week's opponent, Ohio. Have a lot of respect for Frank Solich. You look at this team; it's been to 4 straight bowl games. Last season had over a 1,600-yard rusher in Blankenship. The quarterback Tyler Tindleton threw for over 18 touchdowns and 2,800 yards. 8 starters returned on offense, 6 on defense. And you look at a team that last year, first game, went into Happy Valley and beat Penn State. So our work is cut out for us. But it's key for us this week is just the mental approach, and just our preparation and our focus is going to be key, and making sure that as we prepare this week that the players understand that the opponent and they respect the opponent that they're going to play.
How important is that win over Penn State, no matter who's coming back, and for you to point out to your players, that kind of gets their attention, doesn't it?
Oh, it does get their attention. It does. It gets their attention. And if you look at them going into Happy Valley, beating Penn State, and Penn State was up, and then they were able to come back and then win that game late.
You said that you think the next step is being consistent week to week, so more of the Florida performance, less of the UConn, Syracuse. That has to start practice. Do you see that? Is there a difference in practice early on that you can tell from last year that you think you might get that consistency week to week?
Well, what has happened is you have an older football team now. You have a much more mature football team. And so now the consistency and guys understand just the level of play. And they know how to go out and practice. You know, I was just thinking about just 3 weeks of camp. Maybe one time I would have started practice over again if I had to just go back. But each day they came out, you know, one morning I put the ball on the goal line. We didn't even stretch. I just blew the whistle and just sat it down and said, let's go play. But the guys responded, and guys didn't complain. They just knew that, you know, each day we come out to practice, it's all about us just getting better.
What do you like about your team so far?
Well, I just like an overall attitude right now, and I just like the way it's shaping up just with the leadership on the team. You're looking at a team now that has been together now. The senior class that we have is a class that we brought in, and I think with the fifth-year guys, maybe we have 5 or 6. But they understand now what it's all about, and they understand with the continuity with the coaching staff, they understand how to go to work. And guys, they expect, you know, the guy said, you know what's amazing now, coaches, when we go to practice, you kind of expect what's going to happen at practice, whereas before we kind of just wondered what was going to go on.
Is this the best focused team that you've had coming out of camp?
I would say it probably is the most focused because it's a much older team also. But you look at us at the quarterback position, you have a much more mature quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, but he has a lot of players surrounding him on offense. You know, you look at Jake Smith, who's been a starter. You look at Miller, who's been a starter. Jamon Brown's been a starter. And then the wide receiver position with Copeland coming back with Devontae Parker, and it's with Sonoris and with Dominique Brown. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you look up front, with Brandon Dunn, with Roy Philon, with Marcus Smith, you know, Malden, all 4 of those guys are returning starters, and with Preston Brown being the guy in the middle, with Akeem and Pryor being the guys also at the safety position. So you have a team that really understands, and they go about their business the right way now, and they know how to work.
That was from last year with the Sugar Bowl. I mean, how much of that was a follow from the Sugar Bowl? And you see that they come in a lot more focused with practice, and that seemed to play out during camp.
Well, I think winning the Sugar Bowl was good for them, but they also understand also that they really have to really work now, because now the level of expectation has risen. And they want to know that they want to set the standard for the program, and they want to know how to manage. They want to understand how to manage those expectations.
Going into week 1, do you have an idea of how those carries will be split?
No, I have no idea how we're going to split those carries, because you have Sonoris, you have Dominique, you have Dyer. You have 3 backs right there that we're going to try to get a chance. We want to play all 3 of them, even with Corbin figuring in the mix. So you have 4 running backs, so no idea yet how we're going to play it and then how those guys are going to get those carries. But it's only one football, so you want to throw that ball too. So we're just going to have to just manage that. Well, when you look at Sonoris, he is an outside runner, a speed guy, and a lot of speed and quickness. You look at Dominique Brown's a power runner. Dominique can run between the tackles for you. And then Dyer, he's really exceptional because he can do both. He has the speed and he has the power. And Corbin's a speed player. He's a speed runner. He's an outside runner. So every one of them have their own unique abilities, and we're going to try to use it to the best.
If you hope one emerges, like, or do you plan on keeping a balance of the 3, or would you you like to see one emerge out of that back?
Well, eventually, you'd like to see one emerge, and then that way that guy gets most of the carries. We haven't had, 1,000-yard rusher since Belial, but you'd like to see one guy emerge. But if that doesn't happen, then if you have that's a good problem to have, I guess, right now, to have all those running backs.
Which starting spots are still up for grabs?
There's no starting spots up for grabs. We kind of know who we're going to start and how we're going to go into the season now.
Is Dyer, was he in like football shape when you got him, or did you have to, he'd been working out in that year off, but what did you have to do to kind of get him to where you needed him to be physically?
He wasn't in football shape, and I think that just him getting into the routine, because he had been out a year, and then you think about it, when he got here in August was the first time that he had really gotten back into just the routine of being a football player. But it didn't take him very long, because he had taken care of his body, and he had ran and worked out wherever in Little Rock, so he came into the program. So it took him like a week or so to kind of get used to our tempo and how we go about things. But he's done a really good job with it, just getting used to it.
Are you encouraged that the defense can play at a higher level this year?
I would like to see our defense play at a higher level. I'd like to see them play better than what we played last year. With the number of starters coming back, I think that can be achieved. But, what you got to find on defense right now, we had to dominate up front. And with the starters coming back with Phylon, with Brandon Dunn, with Marcus, with Malden outside, and then with your backers, because as you look at with Preston and Burgess, there's two backers, and Durant. So your front seven's back. So you like to say that. And what's going to be key for us on defense is we got to stop the run. I think last season we had, 7 or 8 running backs that rushed for over 100 yards.
What keeps you up at night? What are the things that worry you, especially with
Just the whole team, you always want to put a football team out there that's very disciplined. You want to put a football team out there that's exciting to watch, and that's your concern, because when you take the field, you kind of wonder, hey, how are we going to play, what we're going to really look like. Oh, they do a really good job with their scheme on offense of running that football. Because you look at the running back last year, like I said, had over 1,600 yards, and the quarterback's an issue because he can run and throw, so it's a major concern.
He's a more physical runner, it seems. Is that a point of emphasis for your linebackers to get to the ground?
Well, he's not one of those. Usually when you see a quarterback in that position, like you think of like Cam and Tebow, he's not of that stature at all. He's a little smaller than those guys, but the back is more of a power runner.
Yeah, the back.
Yes.
In particular, is that a focus this week about how to properly tackle that running back?
Well, you have to tackle. It's just only one way. You have to tackle and get him down.
John, you used last year, I think you switched towards the end of the year and put more starters on the kickoff coverage and kickoff return. Will you continue to do that this year, or do you have some guys that you work in that aren't starters in that position?
What we have now in our kicking game is a core, guys. And what I did is I sat down with Coach Carter and I said, we have a group of guys on our team that have to become the kicking game guys. This is your guys, and this is a pool you're going to pull from. And I think we settled, I think it's anywhere from 18 to 25 guys. And so those guys, you'll see those guys on every kicking game, like a Gerard Holloman's going to be on every kicking game. I just sitting there trying to think of some of the guys, but we have us a core group. But on the punt team, we're going to put defensive starters on the punt team because it's critical. We got to protect the punter and don't let a punt get blocked. And on kickoff team, that's first play of defense. We got to see defensive guys, and most of them are defensive guys that have run downfield and tackle the ball.
Are you pleased with what you've seen, and did you change things schematically?
We changed up some things. Just with our scheme, we had to change it because we just weren't very good. But we've been very pleased with what we've been doing here in the fall camp.
Coach, have you been able to develop any depth on the offensive line?
No, right now with our offensive line, with Garcia and Mack, so what you have ended up doing, Cameron Joyer is out, and Acosta has done an unbelievable job of going in and replacing him right now. So what we try to do is just find 8 linemen, anywhere from 7 to 8 linemen that we can move around. And if something does happen, at least you can plug a guy in and you feel comfortable where that guy can go play both positions. Like Jamon can play right tackle or left tackle. Garcia can play right or left. And then with your guard position, like Jake is at center, but if something happens at a guard position, we're not afraid to move someone to the center position and put Jake back at the guard position. So we can interchange any way we want to up front.
You got a true freshman as backup left tackle, Cam Frazier. What has he done to impress
Cam is still developing and is still growing and still learning, but he's done a good job here in the offseason. So it's still a lot of work for him to do.
Talked about your experience in the front seven defensively. Are they physically mature? Are they stronger than they were a year ago?
Oh, they are a lot stronger because of the way our offseason is. They are stronger. But what's going to be key is just fitting blocks and staying in gap. Last year, one of our biggest concerns was just getting out of just gap control and just allowing runners or just, a guy jump out of gap trying to make a play, and then the ball crease where the gap that he should have been in. And so it's going to be important for us just get aligned and play our technique and just fit blocks and get off blocks.
Is there some way to reinforce that? Is there a specific drill that you do that emphasize that?
What we do every day is we go inside drill, and then the inside drill is good on good. It's our first defense against our first offense, and it's 6 good snaps, no movement. I don't allow our defense to slant guys. You just line up and just play technique. And so now you can see guys if they can get off a block and they can fit blocks. And then some days offense wins, some days the defense wins, but that's the way you like it, though.
Encouraged overall by the progress that they've made in that regard?
Oh, very encouraged. But if you look at it, we should be better than we were a year ago, because now that if you look a year ago, you feel like, okay, they've grown up in the year, so we should be a lot better, which we are.
Staying in lanes, Charlie, is that a sign of maturity?
I'm sorry.
Staying in your lane as a defensive lineman, is that a sign of maturity?
Well, what happens a lot of times with those guys is that they want to make a play, and so you'll see a guy, he'll jump out of a gap, or he won't fit a block the proper way. But we watch it and you show it to him, and you show him how they can get better and just how to correct it. And that's more than anything. You just got to correct the player once he does jump out of a gap. No, you can't do it, because that linebacker is, and it comes back to a trust factor. Whereas, you're sitting there at the front seven, so this guy trusts you to stay in your gaps. Just stay in your gap. I don't need a great play. I just need you to play your position. That's the only thing I need you to do.
Charlie, after what you saw in New Orleans with the fan turnout, what do you expect to see here on Sunday? I know Card March has been moved. Who's going to know about that? But what do you expect from the fans here for the opening?
Our fans have been unbelievable, and like you said, that day in New Orleans, it just have carried over, and it will continue to carry over. And our fans, it'll be a large turnout, because they want to see. When you have a good football team, you draw a crowd, and people want to see you play.
Coach Bedford said he wanted 55,000, and their butts in the seats before the game. Do you think they'll get that message?
That's hard when it's a lot of tailgating going on. Some of those guys, they don't even hear the starting bell when it's time to come in. So, but you would like to see that happen. But our fans are unbelievable, and it's amazing. Just each year it's grown and grown and grown, and now you get to support. But it's really good.
I have a procedural question. What do you do with your guys Saturday while all of college football is playing to keep them focused on their next game? I mean, it seems like they want to watch a bunch of football.
Well, they do, and you allow them to watch the games, but you just tell them don't get caught up in the game. I mean, we still have a game to play on Sunday. It's great to go watch somebody else play, but what we do is we have our plan. We will continue to do our plan where we will come in and we will meet. We'll go out into the stadium. We'll let them run around, get a good sweat. We'll bring them back in. Then we'll do what we call the best Fridays, but it'll be the best Saturday in football. That's a hard one there, because it's really hard to say, because what has happened with this football team is now that you've seen guys have really grown together, and they've really become teammates instead of having like different cliques. I can remember when I first came here, I said, we got to get rid of this clique. Now, you just don't see that. But I think that what has happened is because of the leadership have taken over, where guys don't feel like, hey, because I'm from Florida, I'm a better football player than you, or because I'm from Louisville, this is what I deserve. And that doesn't happen anymore. You just see more intermingling with our players and guys really coming together and just becoming a football team.
Charlie, what's your feeling about playing 2 games in a week again like this? It changes your routine, your schedule, and maybe the players' routine as well. How do you handle that?
It does. It changes our schedule, but what's key is just the exposure. And if you have a chance to go play on national TV like we do on Sunday, at least it gives the country a chance to see our football program, and then you bounce back. And it's a short week, but you got to come in there and play that game on Sunday, and then try to put it behind you on Monday, and then get ready Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and go play the game on Saturday. But I just like, if you have a chance for the country to watch your program and see what you're all about, then you have to take advantage of it.
You guys, what's pressure that comes with that in terms of, everybody's gonna be watching, especially a year like this where, depending on how things fall, we could be having a championship kind of conversation at the end of the year. Like, do you feel pressure to win a certain way and look a certain way in doing it?
No, I really don't. And I told our players, as long as our coaches prepare you the right way and you go out with the right mental approach to the game, then, just go play your best. And on that day, we have to be our best. And it's all that matters.
Is that important for you to continue to hammer that home, maybe not just this week, but throughout the season?
Well, what we try to do, and we came up with a slogan, either you're growing or you're dying, we're getting better, or we just become complacent, become self-absorbed, become cocky. But we have to respect our opponent, and it's key for us. It's all about us and the way we play and how we go about our business.
You got 3 freshmen listed in the defensive line depth chart. Are those guys that you'll try to redshirt or go ahead and play first week?
Well, right now it's so hard to say because here you are, you're going into your first ball game, but we have a lot of guys in front of them too. So we just want to make sure that the guys in front of them are going to go out and play up to their ability.
So like Shortridge and Richardson, do you expect them to play Sunday or do you hold them to see what happens?
Well, you just wait and see.
So many receivers, how many can you have in a rotation? When you go into a game like this, how many receivers?
Well, you can use a lot of receivers because we do open up the offense, and we have 4 wide. And any time you have 4 wide receivers, and then our tight ends also playing that, coming in that mixture also. Because when you look at Cope, you look at Devontae, you look at Eli, Robert Clark, Kai Dominguez had an unbelievable camp, and then there's Milton, and then so you're sitting there with a bunch of receivers, and then at the tight end position, you have BJ. And but you have guys there that are really key players, and they will mix into our offense.
Charlie, what's Clark showing you guys at wide receiver?
Tremendous speed, a lot of quickness, and I always compare Robert Clark to Malden on defense. Malden's a player on defense. He goes 100 miles it doesn't matter if we're in shorts or full pads. He is going to go, and it just so his tempo, that's the way he goes. And Robert Clark's the same way. Every play he goes hard. It doesn't matter if he runs 100 yards down the field. He's going to sprint back, get right back in the huddle, and go again. But it's just amazing just to watch his athletic ability.
How much better did that tackling, advanced metrics that was the emphasis of the game? How much better did that?
Well, you had to be able to tackle, and that was our problem last year. We missed a lot of tackles, but what needs to happen when you go tackle, you got to teach them how to tackle because now it's with the targeting and everything. You got to teach guys how to tackle. But what's key for us is getting guys on the ground.
How much did the stuff set up for by NCAA legal difference?
It really didn't because I was just thinking about last year. I think we only would have had 1 call on us. This one, Reeve, if you remember in the South Florida game, they threw the bubble pass out there and Reeve runs down and he hits the guy and they said, that could have been a questionable, but I said to them, if a wide receiver is blocking a defensive back and that DB beats the block, that shouldn't be the defensive back's fault. That should be the wide receiver's fault. But, anything across the middle, I don't think that we ever, left our feet and laid out and hit a guy. I always tell them don't hit someone in an uncompromising position because they just respect the game. That player works just as hard as you do.
Charlie, if you know who your starting running back's going to be, do they know, or are we just, the depth chart has 4 or 3 guys?
Oh, they'll know. Sonoris will be the starting running back when we run out there on that first offense. Sonoris, he deserved it, and that was, he worked. If you think about last year, he was our starter up until the Syracuse game. But you look at Dominique, he didn't play last season. So when we tried out there that first play, Sonoris will trot out there with the first offense.
Is that symbolic too, with him and the knee injury to be out there that first offense?
Well, I'd say this, and it's amazing just the way he had the training camp that he's had. Because the knee, you would never thought that he even had a knee injury at all. Just the way he's about it and just how hard he's practiced. I held him out. I held him out 2 practices, and he came up to me and said, "Coach, I held him out Wednesday, Thursday." He asked me on Friday, could he practice? And I said, "Yeah, if you want to practice." He said, "Yeah, Coach, I'm getting behind." I said, "You're not getting behind. I just want to make sure when the race starts, you will be in the race." but it's just the way he is.
Did Adrian Peterson's experience influence the way you handle him at all? The ability to come back from that injury?
And I think that's what our trainer looked at too, because Kyle did a lot of research on the Adrian Peterson situation and just the way we handled him. And I tell you what, our training room staff did an unbelievable job with Sonoris, and just to see him back out there, it does. It looked like he has a brace on. He practices with a brace on, but it's just like he hasn't missed a beat at all. Not afraid to plan on it, not afraid to get his foot in the ground and, he'd go from point A to point B. He's not afraid at all.
What does it say about him, but also in terms of the fans that have come in, the players showing the improvement?
Yeah, but it's also shown that with our training room staff, what we have there too, and the hard work that they do.
Speaking of going back, what about Michael Lee? How did he come through camp, and you expect to see some time?
Michael Lee probably practiced the last week and a half and has done a good job. I think that what's going to happen with him and needs to happen is when he take a hit, and he hasn't been able to take a hit on it. But once he does take a hit, I think that any speculation that he may have himself, any doubt that he has will be removed.
Right, is there a point where any of these, where your players were kind of already in that game mode even before last week, that game week mode?
No, they was just trying to get out of camp. They didn't get in there. I tell you something, we had a very physical camp, had a very good camp though, and it was very physical. But I think when you have a good football team that you can't let up, and that's when you really have to push them and you really have to drive them, because when you start letting up, then they feel like they have arrived and they feel like now they don't have to work as hard. But the way we had this last camp, and some of the guys have said it, because I say all the time, I didn't think it was that tough. But they, listen to them talk, they say, oh, Coach, it was very physical and very demanding.
Who's returning?
I'm sorry?
Who's returning kickoffs?
The kickoff returners is, I want to say, it's Corbin Lamb and either Robert Clark or one of those little speed guys back there. I'm not exactly for sure. Parnell's back there. I know Clark is back there. I know Corbin is back there. Eli's back there. We have like all those little cats back there. I don't know which one of them. One of those little guys is going to pick it up.
Is Quick going to be involved in any returns?
Quick will be involved in with the returners also. Both.
Charlie, do you feel like that group can give you a little more explosiveness in that return game?
Well, what's going to be critical in any return game, guys are going to have to block somebody. And if you look at us last year, we did a very poor job of blocking it. And you have to be able to set guys up. And then once a returner gets the ball, a lot of times the blocking won't be there, but can he make a guy miss? And can he find the alley and hit the alley? And that's what we're mainly looking for. Like Kai Dominguez, last year he was a punt returner. Kai has had and it's Dela Cruz, not Dominguez, but he's had an unbelievable camp. Like he's a different person. And I told him, and I said, you finally grew up and you finally matured and you came our way, because we weren't going to go your way. But Kai is he's our returner also back there.
Were there moments with them where you didn't think he'd make that turn?
Oh, I think if you stay in this program long enough, you're going to make that turn. I just don't know when it's going to happen. But I don't think there's ever moments where I don't think a guy will, but he will. Because you know what happens a lot of times with players, and they're all selfish, and they want it to be about them. And when they realize it's not going to be about them, and it's going to be about the team, then they finally join with the team, and then good things happen for them.
How big of an adjustment? You've had these freshmen now, some of them, they've been here for a couple months, and 19 days of camp, and they're going to class today. How big of an adjustment is that for these guys, and what do you kind of tell them about this week?
I think a lot of those freshmen are probably happy they're going to class, because they don't have to get up early in the morning, come out to meetings, because you know what happens with them is their routine is totally different. They have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to come to a meeting, sit in a meeting where they never had to sit in a meeting. They just have to look at football and try to understand everything that's being said to them. Then they go out to practice, and then they try to learn a playbook, and they're looking at it like, oh my God, what is this big old book in front of me? But it's been an adjustment, and it is. is. It'll always be an adjustment. And that's why when you look at the skill guys, like with the Quicks and the Chuckies, it's easier for them to get on the field quicker because it's all about athletic ability. But with the linemen, it's so much tougher when we talk about the short ridges and DH, it's so much tougher because, number one, you got bigger guys in front of you, guys who play the game. So you're talking about like DH going against John Miller. When we go one-on-ones, I mean, John Miller's going to win that battle every time, or Jamon Brown in front of, I mean, they're going to win that battle every time. Whereas when Quick can go against a defensive back, there's no hitting involved. It's all about speed and quickness. Can I outrun this guy, or can I play, get my foot in the ground and run past him? And that's what's easier for a skill guy.
A lot of times with MAC teams, they're a little smaller or not quite as quick. When you look at Ohio University, do they have the team speed and size to match up with you guys?
Well, because you look at them, just our offensive line, they return them, and they have really good size there on their offensive line. And then the running back is he's not very tall, but has the weight to him. And there's a receiver that has good height to him, but just defensively, it may not. That's where you see the difference in the defensive line when you look at them on defense. But I think their offensive line-wise, they will be matched up and look really good.
Is the running back the kind of guy who breaks tackles, or he's got needs space to run, or how does he get most of his yards?
He gets them mostly just in between the tackles because of their scheme. They do a really great job, and it's a read offense, where the quarterback's reading the defensive end. So if the defensive end closes, he's going to keep the ball. If the defensive end doesn't, then he's going to hand the ball off, and the linemen are able to climb to the second level and block the backers. All right. Thank you, guys.